Hey fight fans, history didn't just happen this weekend. It spiked the narrative and broke the meter. A super fight flipped the pound-for-pound board. An under-the-radar main event in San Antonio detonated a hype train with one cold spinning elbow, and the internet spiraled so hard that Fight Night talk bled into real-world headlines. Tonight, we're untangling the whole thing, what actually matters for the belts, the legacies, and who's really built for the crossover spotlight. Let's move. Two Brazilians, one boiling storyline. Diego Lopes and Gene Silva walked into Nocha UFC with serious heat. The fighting nerds had been the meme-friendly machine, quirky props, viral clips, and big wins, but momentum in MMA is as fragile as a taped thumb. The first round told a simple truth. Lopes looked dialed. He smothered early, picked his moments, and refused to give Silva clean reads. The end came ruthlessly. Silva drifted into the pocket and Lopes whipped a spinning elbow so clean it looked rehearsed. One beat later, swarming shots, riff wave, lights down on an undefeated UFC start. Silva left crushed and furious. Backstage, emotions spilled over. The next day he owned it, said he let emotions drive the fight and that he strayed from the plan. Fans clapped back at his team. He pushed the blame onto himself and promised they'll be back. That's what accountability sounds like after a real defeat. But that was just the opening drum roll, because the real tremor hit one there's 300 kilometers west. Here's the thing about a spectacular finish at the right time. It doesn't just bump your rank, it rewrites how matchmakers think about you. Lopes didn't just beat a dangerous countryman, he iced the last unbeaten UFC piece from a surging camp and did it with a highlight people will watch on loop. Add the atmosphere, the Nocha UFC stage, and the pressure. His stock didn't rise. It recalibrated. The concussion isn't Silva's alone. It rattled the fighting nerd's aura. Momentum is contagious. So is doubt. You could feel the timeline pivot as Lopes one win from a title shot. The division's elite won't say it out loud, but they all heard that elbow. Quick reality check, trajectories aren't lottery tickets, you still need the right dance partner. A savvy booking now would test Lopes' grappling endurance and defensive footwork against a top 5 who mixes level changes with feints. What you don't do is toss him a purely brawling matchup and pretend you answered championship questions. The point of a contender fight is to interrogate the resume, not gift another poster. Meanwhile, under the neon of Allegiant Stadium, another interrogation had a verdict and it was unanimous. 70,000 fans. A Netflix broadcast and a chessboard where the pieces felt welded to Terrence "Bud" Crawford's hand. Canelo Alvarez brought the belts, the aura, and that heavy front foot swagger. Crawford brought a scalpel. Over 12 rounds, the story read like this. When Canelo needed exchanges, Crawford gave him angles. When Canelo wanted to set his feet, Crawford stepped off the track and left him reaching. The scorecards, wide enough to remove doubt. The aftermath, bigger than the decision. First, the numbers. The event smashed Las Vegas's boxing attendance record and wrote Crawford into a chapter nobody else owns. First undisputed champion in 3 divisions of the 4-belt era. Canelo didn't hide behind excuses. He called it what it was and took it on the chin. For once, the sport's most political stage felt honest. Here's why that matters. Bud didn't just beat a superstar, he solved a style puzzle people said he was too small to touch. 2 divisions up, different rhythm, different power realities, and he still made it look like his spar. That kind of win changes how future opponents behave before the first bell. And then the soundtrack started trending. Crawford walked into Canción del Mariachi. If you're a casual, that's a vibe. If you're ILIA Topuria, that's personal branding. The UFC's meteoric champ fired off whenever you want. Crawford's reply? A shrug and a jab, calling him drunk. From there, the internet did what it does, stitched walkout clips, debated glove sizes, and asked Dana White to be the genie. Reality check, the UFC boss isn't in the habit of greenlighting boxing crossovers unless the money volcano erupts, but Topuria isn't bluffing. He's made for the main stage and he knows exactly which cameras to look at. Would that fight even be competitive? In a ring. Here's the sober take. Topuria's power and timing are monstrous with 4-0's gloves and the threat of level changes. In boxing, your feet and your jab buy you minutes, your habits cost you rounds. Crawford's ring IQ turns punchers into participants. Ask around, old wrestlers turned boxers are warning Topuria he might be barking up the wrong tree. But as a spectacle, oh, it sells. Conor showed the path, ILIA wants the highway. Before we crown Bud the Forever King, let's talk why Canelo's orbit keeps attracting this kind of opponent and why they keep looking the same on Fight Night. Puncher boxer versus pressure counter puncher. Southpaw switch hitter versus planted lead hook. Crawford didn't beat Canelo with surprise weapons. He beat him with veto power. The jab wasn't always scoring, it was editing. He erased options, no comfortable resets, no long combinations without paying a toll. When a fighter like Canelo can't stack rounds behind body shots and corner traps, the math shifts. You start needing moments instead of minutes, and Bud doesn't sell moments. He sells puzzles. That's the connective tissue back to Mayweather, different personalities, similar cruelty. You spend 12 rounds chasing a light and thick fog.
And the size talk?
Overrated when footwork and distance live rent-free in the other guy's head. Canelo's still an all-time talent, but against the right mover with sharp counters, his offense can look like it's wearing ankle weights. Crawford exploited that with a rhythm that never let the crowd or the judges pretend the ring belonged to anyone else. So what now for both men? For Canelo, every exit leads to money. A retirement rumor mill will churn, but if he sticks around, strategic matchmaking matters more than ever. You don't chase a carbon copy of Crawford's style. You lean into foes who need to set their feet first and won't happily box off the back foot for 30 minutes. If he wants a redemption arc, it's about optics as much as belts. Crawford's in a cleaner spot. He's already declared himself the face of boxing, and for once, the claim isn't cosplay. 3-division undisputed is a microphone nobody else can borrow. He can pick legacy fights or cash fights, ideally both. And yes, he can flirt with crossover noise while keeping his calendar honest. The man solved the sport's biggest star on the sport's biggest streaming stage. He doesn't need to chase validation anymore. But not every headline from the weekend came with judges and ropes. Some came with sirens and a different kind of chaos. As clips from Vegas chewed up timelines, another story ran in parallel: the killing of political activist Charlie Kirk and the wave of theories, outrage, and finger-pointing that followed. Law enforcement says DNA evidence links 22-year-old Tyler Robinson to the rifle and other items. A destroyed note reportedly indicated intent. As the investigation ticks forward, the internet's rumor engine spun up. Mismatched IDs, claims about props, frames pulled from shaky angles, and people trying to read hidden codes into nervous hand movements. It's a familiar pattern. A tragedy becomes a content farm, and suddenly even fight accounts are doing Zapruder edit. To be clear, we're not endorsing any conspiracies. We're recognizing how fast sports discourse can get pulled into the culture undertow. One minute we're debating feints, the next we're litigating headlines and arguing about who got canceled over their posts. Some institutions are responding, from newsrooms to campuses, and creators are getting caught in the blast radius. This is the new attention economy, collisions everywhere, and everyone thinks they're a detective. Which brings us back to why you're here. Clarity, not chaos. For Diego Lopes, he didn't just claim a scalp, he authored an identity. The elbow wasn't an accident, it was the product of comfort in chaos. From here, his test is pacing. Don't sprint past a learning fight that answers championship questions. For Gian Silva, a loss is a mirror. His message afterward, owning the mistake and protecting his team, was the right move. The next camp isn't just drills, it's discipline under fire. If he dials emotional control, the power and skill that got him here don't disappear. For Terrence Crawford, legacy secured, leverage acquired, pick wisely, defend sparingly, and keep the brand aligned with the performance, quiet, mean, inevitable. For Canelo, greatness absorbs dents. If this is the last chapter, it's a whole reread. If not, the matchmaking must respect physics and footage. For Ilia Topuria, your call-out is working. Everyone's listening, but a boxing ring removes half your weapons and all your feints that threaten the shot. If it ever happens, adapt or get academically outclassed. Spectacle pays, technique decides. So yes, history got rewritten. A spinning elbow in San Antonio reset a team's aura. A technician in Vegas recast the GOAT debate with a permanent ink pen. And the wider world barged through the arena doors, reminding us how messy the internet can get when tragedy and fandom overlap. Here's the question I'll leave you with: are we chasing moments or meaning? Because if you watched closely this weekend, the fighters who won chose meaning first and the moments followed.
Drop your take below. Does Lopes get a top 5 next? Is Bud now the era's done one, no debate? And would you actually watch Crawford Topuria as a boxing match, or is that just dopamine talking?
If you enjoyed the breakdown, hit subscribe. We're close to a milestone and I'm loading the next deep dive already. Let's run it back.